I'm Erin Somerville at McCallum High School going over party leadership in Congress. So Congress is a bicameral legislature, meaning that there's two chambers, the Senate and the House. I'm going to go over the Senate first. So I've made oddly shaped boxes here to show the hierarchy in the Senate. And it's been for purpose. It's been deliberate. Notice the Vice President and the President Pro Tem are at the top. So being at the top of a hierarchical structure tells you that they're more powerful, but they're also the smaller boxes. So why they're there in that size? The U.S. Constitution designates that the President of the Senate is the Vice President. So that office, the office of the Vice Presidency, is constitutionally President of the Senate, so highest person up there. But he doesn't actually get to have a vote on every topic in the Senate. He only gets to cast a vote if it's a tie-breaking vote. So he doesn't really need to be there. He may preside over the Senate, but really he can be doing other things, and he'll get a call to come on down if there's a tie-breaking vote. And for a number of reasons, there aren't very many tie-breaking votes in the Senate. Now, the President Pro Tempore, President Pro Tem, is also mentioned in the Constitution as the person who will preside when the Vice President is not present. And that was probably designated because the framers figured the Vice President wouldn't be in there every day. So, assuming the Vice President is not there with great frequency, the senators themselves would choose a President Pro Tem to preside. And in presiding, you're not playing a partisan role. Your role is to help conduct business in the Senate. So the President Pro Tem is generally going to be a relatively well-liked senator. Now, the big powerhouse in the Senate here is the Majority Leader. So the Majority Leader is a senator, and we, the Americans, don't get to pick who the Majority Leader is. When we go vote, we vote for our senators, our U.S. senators from our state. We all get to send 2 senators from every state. The Majority Leader is chosen from among the senators. And the majority party has more people in the Senate, so they're effectively the ones who can choose who the Majority Leader will be. So the Majority Leader is going to be from the majority party. As I'm going through this today in January of 2016, the Majority Leader is a Republican, because at this moment Republicans have a majority in the Senate. And then the Minority Leader is a Democrat. So they're both senators. They are chosen in their respective states, but to be leaders in the Senate, they're chosen from among their fellow Republicans and Democrats in the Senate. Now the whips, they both have whips below them. The whip, how you're going to remember that, they're whipping up the vote. So the whip is someone who's probably politically adept and is responsible for informing the majority and minority leaders of what a potential vote would look like. So when a minority leader asks, Mr. Majority Leader, can we please vote on that today, both of them should be thinking about that question on whether or not to vote today with information about how that vote would go. So the Minority Leader doesn't want to ask to have a vote if they know the vote won't go their way. So they rely on the whips to keep sort of track of who's going to vote how, also maybe to sway some voters, some senators, to switch their vote. So the majority and the minority whips are both whipping up the votes, and they are reporting that information back to their respective leaders. So just to make sure we understand, these are all senators, and we the American people don't choose who gets these offices within the Senate. But seniority will play a role, and party definitely plays a role. Seniority doesn't play as much of a role as it does in the Senate, or in the House. So we're going to come over here now. The House of Representatives has 435 people. It really relies on more structure, more rules, more seniority to get things done. So the Speaker of the House is big and at the top. The Constitution does designate that the representatives in the House shall choose a Speaker. So So this is also a representative. And this representative being chosen from among the representatives is going to be from the majority party. And the minority leader is going to be a representative chosen from among the minority party. So as we're speaking in January of 2016, the Speaker of the House is a Republican, and the minority leader is a Democrat. And so often when the majority party changes in Congress, these two folks will just switch sides. So in 2010, before the election in 2010, the Democrats had a majority in the House, and the Speaker at the time was Democrat Nancy Pelosi. But in November of 2010, the Republicans won back a whole bunch of seats in the House of Representatives, and they got the majority. So Nancy Pelosi, the Democrat, handed the gavel over to Republican John Boehner, who was the minority leader, and they essentially switched spots. And same thing over here in 2014, up until the 2014 election, the Democrats had the majority. So Harry Reid, a Democrat, was the majority leader. And in 2014, when the Senate switched to being Republican controlled, he became the minority leader, and Mitch McConnell, the former minority leader, became the majority leader. So these two prominent folks as leaders of their party within the chamber can switch when the next election comes. So I want to leave you with this. Party matters in Congress. And often we can get swept up in a presidential election and what that can mean. But the elections to Congress are quite significant because as I speak right now, the Republicans have 54 seats in the Senate. Now, not every Senate seat is up for re-election. Remember, they have the staggered elections. But if 4 or 5 senators, Republican senators, lose their seat to Democrats in the next election, well, then suddenly this whole chamber's leadership changes. And not only would the Republican majority leader have to become the minority leader, and the Democrats would now have this powerful office, but also every single chairperson on every committee would then switch in the Senate. So it can come down to a couple of Senate seats or a couple of representatives that changes how the two chambers function. So in the November election coming up, you might be excited to vote for the president, but you also want to remember that you have the opportunity to participate in the congressional elections. And so you might think your one representative is no big deal, or that one senator is no big deal, but that could change the majority party in Congress. Okay, that is leadership, really on party lines, in your U.S. Congress. Thank you.